My mom told me not to talk to strangers on the internet, and I'm glad I didn't listen. We are the Certified Noonas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
Hi, I'm Jessie.
I'm Natalia.
And I'm Sky.
And we are here to talk about the greatest drama ever made. The perfect... This is definitely not Natalia's personal opinion. This is just hardcore fact. We're going to talk about my personal favorite drama of all time. And what I personally believe to be the sort of peak of the zombie genre that's been made in the COVID age. And that is the 2021 drama Happiness.
And this, we have to tell you a little background of this. This is years in the making because Natalia and I maybe 2 years ago sat down to record an episode about this drama.
Yeah.
And everything that could go wrong went wrong that day. And we were just so frustrated by it all. We never edited it or uploaded that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
episode.
we were doing it to be an extra episode for the found family.
And I originally wanted to be a part of it, but I wasn't able to participate.
There were shenanigans from beginning to end, and then when we were okay, let's finally sit down.
Shenanigans was just ridiculous.
Yeah, and then we were let's sit down and finally edit it, and the files were gone. So we were just okay.
It was so we started off with Natalia's mic wasn't working and was doing something weird, and then we tried a bunch of different stuff, and then we came back, and we had already recorded a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We came back, we started to re-record, then stuff happened on my end, and then I'm pretty sure, halfway through, my internet went out. It was everything that could possibly go wrong in this recording didn't
want our thoughts on Happiness to exist.
And you could tell, it's we were trying to talk about the drama, but, there was also the air of frustration after everything that happened.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna put this out. Let's just, forget it ever happened.
Because when you have to repeat yourself constantly, even if it's about something that you like, you're just I'm done. I can't do this.
Can't.
But time has passed, and we were sitting here what's a good way to we really wanted to start 2024 off with a series of bangers of just absolute banger episodes, and we were what would be a really great episode to do that would be a super banger for 2024. And then we were easy. We finally talk about Happiness and how much we love it.
And we add Sky to the...
And finally Sky can join us. Yes. Listen, this is my favorite drama.
So we did all watch this as it was airing.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It was hard, but we did.
Sky, set the scene of what it was like.
I don't remember
in 2021 when it was airing.
What month was it? I'm gonna pull up. What month was it?
It was November, December. It was late 2021.
Late 21.
Okay.
Man, it feels like longer than that. Doesn't it feel like longer than that?
And, COVID.
Yeah, COVID. And
oh my gosh,
So while it was airing...
Okay, I will tell you this. Let me think. November 21. I sometimes wish I had a timeline of pandemic stuff to where as far as when vaccines first started being available, because it was anyway, that's a whole thing, which makes me wonder.
Right after this aired was the January that I got so sick that we had to cancel recording due to illness for the first time ever. Because I had COVID so bad in January that I don't think I got out of bed for 3 weeks or something. So it was that, and it was right after that we decided to record about Happiness, and then everything went wrong, and I was just this is bullshit. This is ridiculous.
Well, because Happiness ended December 11th, 21. It finished out the year. And so I definitely remember it hit our ranks, our tops lists, if we were starting to do them, it definitely but it's on Viki. It was on Viki then too, which means subs were delayed quite often, and we were not pleased about that. Usually we're very patient and supportive.
So
we were
this
still supportive.
trying.
We were still supportive.
So when we say delayed, like it wasn't like, sometimes now, like Vicky's gotten a lot better about sub timing, where it's like, it'll be like, oh, maybe like an hour or like an hour to 3 after it posts. Usually the subs are up. But we're talking like 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking, and it was sitting there like, you can't.
Ridiculous.
To us.
Because then Vicky would go and do like teaser clips and
like
have them subbed, and they were all like major spoilers, and I'm like, you're spoiling an episode that you don't currently have subbed on your like channel. Stop it.
And so we were so just on edge about this show, and we were just like,
more and more as the show went on, because like the entire spoilers are a big deal for this show. They really, even from the beginning. If you knew some things that you know later on, it would not be the same.
General tone of the show has a lot of tension to it.
Yes.
So you're already like there.
And then it kind of builds even exponentially like the last 4 episodes. Like even more so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so when you don't need to have subs being like 2 days late, and we're all crying on Twitter about it.
Yeah, it's like when I tell you the group chat was in shambles while this was airing, because every time it would come out, it was a Friday, Saturday show, and so on Monday we'd be like, "Where is it? Where is it? I can't just watch last week's episode again. I need it." We were feral for this show while it was airing, and for good reason. And I feel like people who like zombie stuff have already watched this show. But I feel like there's a lot of listeners of our podcast who don't like zombie stuff, so probably didn't even bother checking this show out. And I'm here to tell you, you've made a grave mistake, okay?
So, like, I'm not sure I would call myself a zombie fan. I also haven't exposed myself to a ton of zombie stuff, just because it's not, like, way up there on my interests.
Go for,
No.
But, like, it takes some convincing for me to, like, check out Kingdom or something. Yeah. Like, I was there for other reasons other than the zombies. So, like, happiness, it's not the zombies that attract me to the show.
No.
And so, as someone like that, and I'm sure the 2 zombie enthusiasts here can agree, though it's a zombie show,
it's not a zombie show.
The percentage of zombiness of the show is very low.
It is very low. I will say that there are points in the show that, like, the zombies are on full force.
Yeah.
And it's creepy, but it's so, like, small comparatively. And also, the whole point of the show is that the zombies aren't the things that are, like, the bad things in the world, So,
which I will get into later, because I have a whole rant about zombie movies.
Oh, we have a rant.
I have a whole rant about zombie stuff and like what makes a good versus a bad zombie thing for me. I have a whole thing about it. And Sky and I were on a call yesterday, and I started ranting, and she's like, "No, stop. Save this.
Wait.
Save this for tomorrow." And I was like, You're right.
But, so, like, as somebody that doesn't, like, gravitate towards zombie things, I wouldn't, like, this is a zombie show, but, like, I wouldn't even call it that. You do have to make sure someone can handle zombie things.
Yeah.
Smaller zombie things, if you're entering this show. You need to be okay with some stuff. Is it horrifically gory? No. It really is not. There is blood.
No.
Blood is a thing that you will see. But compared to just, like, kind of your typical crime type show, it's kind of similar.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not even Train to Busan. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not the sadness.
No. Okay. If you want to hear about that movie, you should join the Found Family and listen to Movie Club this week. Jesus. Yikes. That's coming out
Happiness
on
and sadness?
Yeah. It was kind of a fun pairing, but you'll hear Jessie and mine's thoughts. Let's just say, don't watch that if you can't handle.
Sky, do not watch. Do not even
see. Don't even look at the preview.
And so for people that don't know my like journey with kind of scary stuff and whatever, to give you the reason I'm telling you this is to give you kind of a measuring stick. I used to think I couldn't handle any scary stuff whatsoever, really, and then I've kind of exposed myself to it a little bit more, and I figured out I can handle some a fair bit, actually. But the reason I'm bringing this up, there are limits. And these two know my limits. My limits tend to be just really, like, you have to enter very, very, very tense things, or things that'll really get stuck in your head a lot, or, like...
Mm-hmm. Which is all of this sadness.
Like,
which is all of this sadness.
So, like, I pretty much can't handle the really, really intense stuff. But, like, I can handle a fair bit. Like, I watched Possessed and I was fine. Like, and so that's, like, that's been I've been able to figure out that I can handle a fair bit. Yeah. Happiness is actually, and so as someone that used to think I couldn't handle things, I still think happiness is much easier on the scale of that.
You know why it's much easier? Because it's the greatest love story of all time.
It's the greatest love story of all time. Yeah. And it's the greatest indictment of modern society that I've seen. And despite it being a show about zombies, it is so realistic to real life that it's not even...
Oh, man.
It's not even funny at this point.
And it's quite the experience to, and the reason I was bringing up the pandemic stuff, it's quite an experience to watch it kind of earlier in the pandemic and then revisit it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just adds more flavor to what we're
especially
watching.
Because the show does acknowledge COVID. It's very much like...
It's still taking place during COVID. Like, it's not like in this... It doesn't take place in a world where COVID never existed or COVID is fictionally over. Because don't know if y'all been looking at the news lately. It was never over and is still here among us. But I digress. But we should probably, pre-warning, we will have spoilers. This is a spoilery episode for a 2-year-old show. So...
And there would be no way to avoid, like, you have to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, if you are planning on watching it, please do go watch it and then come back. And even if you do get some spoilers in this, you should probably still watch it. I think you'd still enjoy it regardless. But what is happiness about? Very vague title, of course. But very apt for the two main characters of the show. We're led in with two of the greatest leads of a drama you've ever seen. We have Yoon Se-bum, played by Han Hyo-joo, chef's kiss. And then we have Jung Yi-hyun, played by Park Young-sik, chef, just double, triple, quadruple chef. Every single cast member in this is insane.
Oh, like, man.
Every single one is perfect.
It is a stacked list of actors and actresses.
Stacked cast. So, Yoon Se-bum is a, like, SWAT anti-terrorist
special ops
agent.
Badass.
So cool.
Complete badass.
Very good at her job. Very confident. Very calm under pressure. Absolute. Just perfect person for that role. And then her best friend, since shenanigans in high school, is Jung Yi-hyun, who's a detective who was on his way to become a professional baseball player before he got an injury in his last year of high school and couldn't do it. And that's kind of been like his personality since then. And he's a detective now. And they're buddies, okay? So she's at this training thing, doing some training. And one of the guys at the training thing, one of the other SWAT guys, goes absolutely fucking insane. Starts eating people. Just doing dumb shit, right? Like, it's a zombie movie. So she gets, like, scratched by him, and she's like, damn son, like, what the fuck? So she gets dragged off to this, like, abandoned dormitory from, like, a closed down college where she meets Han Tae-seok, who's a scientist, military scientist of some sort.
Yeah.
Who's like, yeah, shit's pretty rough. Shit's not looking good. We got this new bizarre virus going around called Madman Rabies that makes people act crazy.
And it's nothing like COVID, so don't think it is.
So we need to put you under observation, so I need you to help us out. And she's like, all right, I'll help you with your little bullshit, but I want a little quid pro quo, because, you're worth, you know what I mean? And she's like, I want an apartment because it's really hard to get housing. And he's like, listen, I can bump you up the list for like the public service apartments, because as a little side note, every new apartment building construction in Korea is required to reserve a certain percentage of units for civil servants and low-income housing.
I think this was the first drama that I had encountered that in. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
To learn about that being a real thing.
Yeah, that should be the same everywhere. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Definitely, I've never heard the civil, like, servant here, but, like, we definitely have, like, it's depending upon where you are, but, like, they're, like, new apartment complexes will have a percentage that they can
for low income,
lease to low income, and there's, like, a lot of, like, criteria for that. Like,
so he's like, listen, I can get you on the list, but like, you're a single female. Like they usually give them out.
You
to
still need some more points.
So you need some more points to get up the list. She's like, don't worry, I've got a plan for that. So meanwhile, her best buddy is investigating a weird ass murder at a hotel.
Yeah.
And he shows up and someone's got their face eaten off, okay? Like, it's not great. And he's like, I think the person who did it is still in this room with us. And then his buddy, his, like, partner, played by Lee Jun-hyuk, who's chef's kiss. Also,
he's so good.
Chef's kiss. They're all chef's kiss. Is like, what do you mean that's still in the room? And then you find this guy who's just like, I don't know what happened. Like, what came over me? Like, I didn't mean to kill them. Like, I don't know. And then they find these mysterious pills. And he's like, what the fuck are these drugs? Like, normally, like, what is this, bath salts? Like, normally this doesn't make you do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then he's like, this is so bizarre. But then he gets a call from his best buddy who's like, I got the deal of a lifetime for you. We're gonna get married for this apartment. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna pretend like this is just a bros doing bro things, but this is secretly what I have been desiring for the last
But in my heart, I'm jumping up and down. Yes. This is the most amazing day of my life.
I'm being real cool about this, but inside, this is the greatest thing that has ever happened.
I truly wanted nothing more.
This is all I've ever wanted in life, was to marry this woman. So they move into this apartment, and then start to meet everyone else who lives in this newly constructed apartment building. Not too many people have moved in yet. There's only like 6 families who had moved in so far, or whatever, that you meet anyway. And oh boy, do we have a cast of characters. So we've got, the busybody who lives on the top floor, who's determined to become the resident, like,
rep.
You've got
she's got real, like,
Karen
PTA.
energy. Yeah, PTA vibes.
Yeah, president, yeah.
Very classist.
Karen.
Yeah, the Karen.
Yes.
Played by Bae Sun, who's always
so good.
Incredible.
So
Across the hall, you've got the cutest little girl you've ever seen in your life, whose parents work really hard, and she doesn't go to school because she's immunocompromised and needs a heart valve transplant. So she can't go to school. So she just starts hanging around with her all day because her parents are at work all day, and she's like 8 and doesn't have any friends.
I'm kind of bored.
You've got a douchey lawyer. You've got a douchey doctor. You've got a really nice cartoonist.
A novelist.
Novelist. Well, she's like, doesn't she write like manhwa? She's not. I might be mixing her up because I think the same actress
because she plays another character.
Another one.
A manhwa, yeah.
Oh, in Just Between Lovers, she
was
does the manhwa.
She was a manhwa. Sorry.
So she,
Yes. She was a
novelist,
novelist.
but she also lives with her brother.
Well, she doesn't live with her brother. Her brother wants to live with her.
I thought
the brother is trying to pressure her into letting him and his family move in with her. So he's always over annoying her. And then you have like this elderly couple and their idiot son. And then you have this.
To be a live streamer.
He wants to be a content creator so bad. And then you've got.
He starts off doing like stocks type stuff. That's what he starts off doing.
And then you've got on the top floor of the penthouse, a very COVID conscious. Shut-in, essentially. Relatable guy in a weird way who only leaves his house in a hazmat suit. Every time someone doesn't wear a mask around him, he like death glares them. He's great. So then, like, the story's just progressing with them having problems with their douchey neighbors who are, like, classist and, like, being like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't use the building gym because you're a renter, not someone who bought the apartment, like, and the gym's
and, like, blocking off the, like, top floors where they live.
Yeah, blocking off, like, the fire escapes and stuff, and then she's like, that's illegal! You can't do that.
And I'm just going to kick in the door because I can, so...
Well, I loved that moment because the little girl was with her, and you could just see the stars in the little girl's eyes the entire time, like,
Yeah, that was, like, the moment where she was like, this is my favorite human being in the entire world, and I want nothing more than to be her when I grow up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, do you know what happens next in the apartment building?
I think I have a guess.
A bunch of people in the apartment complex turn into zombies. Dun, dun, dun. And so the military shows up and boards them in. Just boards like, the whole
can't
apartment.
Go out now.
Because it's like an apartment complex that has multiple buildings with like a shared park and stuff. Just surrounds it with barbed wire.
Stores and stuff, like a grocery store, and like those really big complexes that you could like literally live in that little complex and never venture out and be fine.
Yeah, and they just barbed wire board up the entire surrounding, and so they can't leave. And
well, I want to say in this moment, so like when they get boarded up. It was only kind of announced that, like, the first outbreak was in their building in particular. And so then all the other people from all the other buildings act super snarky about, like, the entire situation and try to, like, you know, separate themselves from this building. They don't want the people in that building to go into the park or be outside or anything. And then... oh, how the turns tabled really quick. Like, with a lot of that
really quick, because all the people stuck in the apartment building are the only ones who don't get infected while everyone else outside is. But that just
and
means
you also have,
leave.
like, a couple of key things here, like, that has happened. Since, like, this was, like, a thing that happened so fast, the little girl's parents are on the outside of the wall. They're not in the apartment complex. So she is all alone by herself in this apartment complex. And you also have a couple of people who are cleaners who were there cleaning the building at the time and are now stuck. And you've also got this girl who was the cashier at the grocery store whose, like, boss was like, I'll give you, like, more pay if you just stay there. And she's like, whatever. I went through COVID. It's fine.
And then, most importantly, what also has happened right before this is that the detective, the main character detective and his partner have arrested the upstairs neighbor because the upstairs neighbor tried to murder his wife. But they are now trapped knowing that they were booking this guy on their way to bring him to be booked for murder, but are now trapped in the apartment complex with him. And
so to tease out the fact that, like, so the partner, you know, he wasn't living with everybody, so he got stuck too. Yeah. Like, so he,
And when I tell you, the actor who plays this murderer, the guy who tries to murder his wife, played by Baekhyun Jin, is the greatest villain I've ever seen.
Is.
Ever, because he's so nasty, but not in like a way that's unrealistic. Like, you've met this guy.
Yeah.
He's selfish.
That's what makes it even worse.
He's nasty.
Yeah.
And he'll do anything to weasel out of...
He thinks he's the best.
He thinks he's smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
And he's just... So here's where I get to go on my rant about zombie things and why happiness. Okay. So, when you're watching a zombie show or a zombie film, the zombies aren't the villains of the show. Mm-hmm. And if you've made the zombies the villains, you've missed a key component of what actually makes zombie survival horrific. And it's not the zombies. It's the non-zombied people that you're stuck with.
It's the actions of the non-zombied.
And so zombies, especially in this one, it's very well pushed out that the zombies aren't some mindless creatures. They basically have a form of rabies. They're sick people. Like, they're still people, and they are symptomatic of a physical and mental disease that is eating their brains.
Which I really liked, because they do tie it very closely to rabies and a lot of the stuff that, like, you see them doing, or, like, things that they, like, need, like, they have, like, a persistent amount of thirst. This is all signs, like, in
rabid.
Like, if a human gets rabies now. So it's, like, super believable in that point, too, because it was just, like, kind of, like, seamlessly integrated into be like, oh, okay, it's not, like... very sci-fi-esque. It's just like real life. Yeah. Like, this is probably what would happen if zombies...
Yeah, like, obviously they had to, like, they gave, like, when you're in zombie mode, you have, like, white contacts and stuff, but that's just so that you as the audience...
you get out your white contacts, you put in your contacts.
Put it in. It's so you as the audience can recognize, like, oh, this person is like, so that's not... We can look past it because it's a stylistic choice that makes sense for, like, an audience watching a show. But, like, the villain of a zombie movie shouldn't be the zombies. And this show was that so well. Like, it presented that so perfectly that, you know, even, like, the two main characters and, like, the military scientist, like, Park Hyun-sik's character... constantly is at odds with this military scientist because he's like, I don't even think you see them as people anymore, but they're still people. Like, you're supposed to be creating this, you know, vaccine, but you're treating them as though they're expendable. Like, because, you know, we've seen them packing these sick people into, you know, freezer trucks and, you know, very imagery, very, reminiscent of the height of the early COVID pandemic, right? Like, a very apt choice there. And to have it being going on while COVID is still a thing is a fantastic choice. And so I just felt like this show really got that the zombies are an inciting incident. The zombies are not the horror that is happening. Like,
I also liked how when they started describing when the outbreaks were kind of occurring more on the outside, quote unquote, like not just in this apartment building, but like there was a homeless shelter and things like that. Like anytime they talked about it as a disease and things, it was always made so much sense within the way things actually occur in real life. Like that's very much
nursing homes.
Whenever there is any type of pandemic, people that are marginalized, impoverished, all these things, like they get hit first. Like that's just the way it goes. So the way that even, and they didn't harp on that, it wasn't like, but I mean, it was just the way they unfolded everything. Is like, this is done very well.
Like, that's just the way that it always.
Well, and they also did some really great things with like the villains of the story. Everybody has like a range, so like it's some of the villains like you like understand why they're doing it. Like you start to understand as the like story unfolds why the one guy is aggressively trying to figure out what's going on with these zombies because he has a personal tie to it, and he just doesn't care about anyone else but his personal tie. He's still a villain for a lot of it, but it's like at a level that's like different than like the guy in the apartment complex. But then you also have like other people who like are still like annoying, but like they're not as villainy, and like it just like really captures like a lot of different things, especially with like the strong military presence and the fact that like you're seeing so much of the military because the two main characters are so tied to it by job. You get to see that like villain-esque thing where it's really more of like strict, this is what we have to do, we can't have emotion in it because we have to eradicate this disease before it takes out everyone. And it just has to be the way that, like, some people have to be taken out to further our end goal of, like, not all of humanity going this way.
It's really, like, you know, for the greater good situation that you're put up against, where you're, like, it's the dichotomy, like, the argument that exists between, like, all lives are important, but to save the most amount of people... you can't save everyone, like those two things butting up together. But what's presented so nicely is that what makes the villains in this villainous is not that they're making the choice that that we have to do this to make sure that that the most amount of people survive, but they truly believe that not all lives are worth the same amount. And that's what makes them villainous, is that they believe they have the ability to pick who is more important. And that's the actual villainy of the whole thing, is they believe themselves to be better than, you know, the plebs beneath them. And then I know what you're thinking, like, you as the audience who've listened to us for a long time, you're like, this is Natalia's favorite show. But Natalia really loves shows that have serial killers in them. They couldn't possibly... They couldn't possibly have also a fleshed out serial killer plot. Well, that's where you're wrong, champ.
So surprise serial killers. When you usually think about that, you're thinking of, like, quote unquote surprise serial killer. You think it shows up in a genre that you maybe didn't expect a serial killer to typically be in. Though, like, we know it's par for the course for like rom-com K-dramas. Like, we know this sometimes occurs. So, like, but I mean, I wasn't expecting it in this genre.
I
was not.
So I distinctly remember when we were watching this that I was the only one who was, and it was for one.
Because I remember this.
Yeah, it was for one specific reason. And so the actor who plays the serial killer is Lee Ju-sung. And he has made a career out of playing innocent-faced psychotic characters. And for most of the show, he appears with a mask and big glasses on, because...
And he's part of the cleaning crew.
Yeah, he's part of the cleaning crew. And in the fiction that he's told this couple that he works for is that he has severe autism, but now that, and he was in a fire,
like a scar
and has scars on his face. And so now that it's okay for everyone to wear a mask all the time because of COVID, he finally feels comfortable enough coming out of the house. But really, he's just assumed someone else's identity and has to hide his face so that no one figures out it's him. And so, but the first time he takes off his glasses and I saw his eyes and I realized who it was, like this actor, I was like, oh shit, he's going to murder someone. and then I went to Jessie, because like we had just finished watching. I'm like, Jessie, did you see who's playing the character of Andrew? Like, and Jessie's like, what do you mean? I was like, nope, never mind. I'm going to let that be a little surprise.
Well, and so I have seen that guy before, and to me, I didn't recognize his... Like, because I think they show his eyes, I don't know, a few episodes in or something.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 episodes.
But he doesn't, they don't show his face, mask off, until, like, third to the last episode.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's pretty far. And, like, honestly, the, like, serial killer aspect is kind of, like, really far into it.
Yeah.
Like, on this second watch that I just did, the, like, little, like... hints are there because like you see people, and I think they also did focus on very early on, focusing on the like richest person in the building who is like very COVID conscious, making him so off-putting that like if anybody were to be the weird like serial killer of the building, it would have been him. So you were always kind of like, that guy's a little weird. He's just a little off. What's he gonna do?
What I sort of liked is that the rich guy who lives in the penthouse was clearly the actual autistic character, because he was very like precise, and he had hyperfixations on military insignia. That was his like special interest. And so he actually befriended like the main woman because she worked for the military special forces, and he was like, wait a second, can you get me like a special forces t-shirt? And she was like, absolutely, like hell yeah, like sure, like I'd love to do that. And so she's the only one in the building who had befriended him this entire time, and everyone else treated him like he was a weirdo, right? Because he only left in a hazmat suit and didn't let anyone to his apartment. And so at key moments in the show, like when they're doing votes and stuff, he would appear and be like, whatever she wants, I'm going with her. And then like, you know, and later on the serial killer, he's one of the first victims of the serial killer. And the way that he gains entry is by invoking her name. Like, oh, she needs you for something. So he opens the door, and that's how he gets into the guy's apartment. And so it's like, he's sort of a tragic character because he was the most equipped to survive any of these situations.
Yeah, he was the one who was most trying to survive. Like, he had the most, like, aggressive, like, way of living in this world, and it still wasn't, like, good enough for him. And
unlike all the other rich people in this building, he didn't do it by trampling on everyone else. Like, he was willing to share his supplies with people. He was willing to vote for the greater good. And he was willing to make the right choice and trust the honorable person in the situation. And that was basically shown, like, and that is why he gets murdered, is because of this, because he is a good person.
There's also another, like, level of tragedy within his character. It's like towards the end of the series, like especially when they find out that he's actually gone, and he's like they think he's just gone and that sort of thing. They the main female character has a conversation with the like right hand woman of the medical guy, or whatever his like character is, and you find out at that point that she has just been able to run everyone's IDs because of everything that's been going on. All types of like government like agencies have stopped doing their normal checks. And within like seconds of this like check of this like ID, very clearly able to be like, that person's not who he says he is. This like they could have like immediately figured out he was not who he was from the very beginning, because one of the first things that Hyunshik's character does in the very, very beginning is take everybody's ID and gets it recorded.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first things he does in that like building. But like, we don't get till the end of the series the confirmation of who everyone is, and it could have been stopped within seconds if everything in the world wasn't happening at this moment. So there's like there's this other level of tragedy with his character, because he could have survived if everything else wasn't going on.
And then the other element to it is that he wouldn't have been successful at any of these murders, except that he was helped every single time by the guy who murdered his wife. Like, continuously
like, everybody was him. Like thinking about zombies the entire time, so they didn't see or smell or anything weird. Like, they didn't catch on that people were missing. Like, they did not catch on that the oldest cleaning lady was gone till well after, and they're like, oh, she's not here.
Yeah. it shows, like, it also really sort of demonstrates how in moments of crisis, things that would be obvious in normal times get completely, like, hidden because everyone's just panicking and focused on the bigger picture, that you miss the details, right? And the show has so many layers. It's so good.
And then there are a couple of characters that they exhibited this in different ways and stuff, but there are a couple of characters that would still fixate on things that weren't appropriate to be fixated on within an emergency situation. So, like, the chick that's the building rep and stuff, and she, the whole time, mostly, she is just, that is all she cares about. Because of the money and the influence and all these things. And so, in the midst of conversations about, like, life and death stuff, she's there politicking. Like, that's all she's doing. And then you have the brother to the novelist lady, and for quite some time, and he eventually kind of comes around, like, but for quite some time, he's still trying to influence and really kind of guilt trip his sister into, like, influencing her about her nice apartment and money and all this stuff. And so I was fascinated by that, because there are people like that even in really realistic, horrific situations, they're still so self-interested that they're still, at least for a while, going to write out whatever their fixation is.
And it's also, like, a really great way of, like, highlighting that, like, people cope in different manners. And that, like, sometimes that coping is still, like, when you're a terrible person, it's, like, your coping mechanism is also terrible as well. So she was a terrible person always. Yeah. She was classist. All she wanted was to, like, get the lower people out of her building. She was not a good person. But she is, you see her mentally breaking throughout the entire show. And it's very real and very human. But her coping mechanisms are that of a person who is still a terrible person. Like, it is terrible. Things are going on, and mentally she's not doing okay, but she's still a terrible person. And so her coping mechanisms, like, come to this in that, like, realm. And it's like, it was interesting and fun watching that as well, because she was so different than the really terrible doctor guy who was just pure psychotic evil.
Like he was just a bad guy and was always a bad guy. Like, he was always going to murder his wife.
He was one of those guys that you, like, constantly you're like, how are you succeeding? You shouldn't actually be succeeding in life. But he was
that always. Those types of people do succeed in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so annoying. Anyone
under the bus.
Yeah. Like, you're like, you shouldn't be. Like, out of everybody, you're the one who's succeeding? Come on.
And it's like, and I love that it really shows how people, like, lose perspective of what's the actual important thing you should be focusing on due to, like, panic and selfishness. So, like, for example, he should be focused on surviving. Like, if he goes to jail after, that's not important right now. There's a huge outbreak that could kill you.
Yeah.
When you're stuck in a closed quarters, focus on that. But instead he focuses on trying to get some sort of bizarre revenge on Park Young-sik's character for having the audacity to arrest him for the murder he definitely committed.
But he also feels that, like, he's entitled to it. He's like, there's one point when, like, Hyun-sik's character is, like, talking to him, and he's like, you think you can talk to me like that? Like, what kind of world are we living in that you think that? And you're like,
he's like, the real one.
You're boarded into, like, a place. There's a zombie outbreak going on. Your power and your water have been cut off, and you only have a few, like, supplies of food, and nobody's sending you food. Like, let's think about the fact that you might die from starvation before anything else happens. Yeah. Come on.
It's like, before, like, expending all this energy on trying to, like, take me down a peg, maybe think about what's actually happening to everyone in this situation right now, myself included. Like, get it together. And so it really shows, like, this dichotomy between, and it's always like, it's the poorer characters who are trying to equitably survive and have a community and be fair, and it's the richer characters who are constantly trying to be greedy and get one up on everyone else. And the reality is that's how life is.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes, I mean, I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't even that black and white. Like, you also had the cleaning couple who, because the greedy people were being so horrific, they kind of had the resources behind their door for a while. And so they're like, we're going to start, like, pumping up the charges for just some water or food or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you guys are being jerks. And so, and then they kind of started getting greedy. And it just showed a lot of just human nature with a lot of that stuff.
Once you have a taste of that, like, life and how you kind of, like, snowball into wanting more and more.
Because who doesn't want a leg up on the horrific doctor guy? Yeah. Everyone does, because he's a jerk. Like...
But it's like, and I found it so interesting because, like, the cleaner couple, before they were literally driven insane by the doctor guy, is they were actually, like, the husband especially was incredibly moral through most of it.
Yeah.
And he was always trying to, like, the wife would always be like, okay, let's not, like, make any waves and stuff. And he'd always be like, no, wait a second, though. Like, we're stuck here with you. We're all stuck together. Like,
and they genuinely let in that kid because they wanted to help him. Yeah. Like, it wasn't just like they needed another person and they could, like, get him for cheap. They genuinely were like, oh, we should make sure that we could figure out a way to, like, have him on our staff.
Yeah. And then, you know, and the husband was like, we should pay him more. And she's like, he doesn't want any more money. Like, we've offered him money. And they're just like, you know, I'm happy that we're able to, like, help him, like, get out and do things. Like, and so, you know, and it was so, and they're not rewarded for that empathy that they have. They're in fact punished by it, which is also very realistic to the actual world. So this show's got it's an onion, my friends.
It really is, because then you can talk about the brother and how he changes, because he changes for the better. Like, you see the complete opposite with him, because he ends up getting bitten and is turning, and his sister stays by his side and helps him out, and he starts to realize a lot of the stuff that the sister has sacrificed for him that he didn't realize because he didn't just stop to listen to her, or, like, she just didn't want to like have it be known so that he feels bad. And, like, so he has this journey where it's, like, completely opposite than the cleaning people who were, you know, they got to, like, their spot and they became worse, but he actually became a lot better throughout his journey in the show.
The show it's so much more than just grr zombies attacking. Like, it's a show about the reality of human nature, especially highlighted during a pandemic, which we've all experienced. And so it feels so much truer having experienced it. This is
for this long too.
Yeah, for this long. Like, this takes place within, like, 2 weeks. Like, this is a very short.
I know, like, halfway through the show, like, you realize that it's only been, like, 2 days, and you're like,
yeah, like, it's not a long period of time that they're stuck in this apartment building, but it shows, like, how quickly things can dissolve without the veneer of, like, polite society because of bad actors, right? Like, so the people who are trying to build community, if it had just been those people stuck in this apartment building, they would have been fine. Like, if, like, half of the people in this apartment comp, like, in this situation, if they had just been them, they would have gotten through this.
Yeah.
No problems. But obviously that wouldn't make a very compelling horror story, thriller, you know, so I do understand. But, like, it having, you know, especially having been someone who couldn't and still can't sort of participate in society because of health problems, like, it's really interesting to watch this. And I sort of saw the show, especially on, like, a second viewing, through the eyes of the little girl who's stuck there with an immunocompromised person who has no agency and really has absolutely no power to do anything. And it was fascinating. It's a fascinating show to watch.
Yeah, and, like, That's interesting because I think when for the first viewing of it, you're so worried that something is going to happen to that girl that you don't get to have that like time to like really see her. And one of the things that like I know Sky and I said, one of the things that like I didn't think was going to come out of this show but did come out of the show is just like the female characters and how badass they are.
Yeah.
Like, and how like a lot like the people who are like looking up to people are the females looking up to the main female's like character and how she is so good at her job and so good, just genuinely good at being a human. And so it was really nice to watch like the little girl be so enamored with her, and then the also the the little like the assistant in the military and how she grows in her like role and because of how she is.
And the other one that I really liked the journey of was the wife of the lawyer, who's very much she's in a very emotionally abusive relationship with her husband. Yeah. Like he is a terrible person to her.
Yeah, and he was she was like the assistant or something like beforehand.
Like a secretary,
She was
so
very
tied to him monetarily no matter what, even if they weren't married.
Yeah. And she goes through a journey of realizing her own personal worth and like a realization that like she doesn't want to be tied to this man anymore. Like she would be better off destitute and separate from him than living a comfortable life with him. And that's like an important thing that I think a lot of people go through at some point, like in these sort of abusive, not like physically abusive, but like toxic relationships, because they have a very toxic marriage, because he very much belittles her, looks down on her, calls her stupid to her face, like and never takes her
all
advice.
The work for him.
And she does all the work. But she's always correct. This is what I always found funny, is that he's always making the wrong decisions and she's always right, but he never takes her advice because, again, the problem is that it's the people who think that they are better than everyone else that are the downfall of this entire community.
And the loudest.
Yeah.
And there's a great like moment with her in the very end. So she's part of the crew that like is able to get out of the building at one point, and she's sitting there talking, and the guy asks like things about the zombies. Like it just asks, like, he's trying to figure out what the zombies are doing, like what's happening, like is there anything that's like different and stuff. And she's kind of just like brushing off. She's like, I don't know, like why would I like know, because I'm just basically in like a very much like I'm just kind of like a nobody. I was just like there in my room. But she's the one who tells like a specific thing that then they're able to get the antibody, because they start to realize how the zombies are working, and that like you can get antibodies from even people who actually still turn but like don't fully turn or are able to control that. Yeah. And it's just like this one little simple thing that she was the one
instrumental for.
Yeah. And she was like thinking that like how would she be the one to like be able to like make anything happen, and she does.
And also the novelist chick, like she's really good too, as far as she doesn't have like a huge necessarily development journey, but like her relationship with her brother definitely shifts. But also she, from early on, she recognizes the lead gal, Sabom's character, like she's like, you and I are both renters. And
but but she's not a renter.
Oh, she was an owner?
She was an owner, because that's why her brother was so like adamant that she let them move in, because she used her inheritance to buy this apartment.
They had a very specific like bond from early on. Like she saw Sabom as like, you're a good person.
I think it may be that she owns one of the lesser valued properties.
Yeah. So she wasn't on the top floor. So she was treated like a renter, but she wasn't a renter. Like she
I think that's probably why I got confused, because the building rep chick was still like dogging on her. Yeah. Despite the fact that like she owned
the apartment, because that was like the the crux, the problem between her and her brother is that her brother thought that she got a better deal in their inheritance when their father died because he had used his money already, but she had bought this apartment. And she was like, but he also paid for your college and your wedding. I had to pay for my own university. Like, I saved up my money and my inheritance to buy this apartment, and now you want to also come live with me? Like, come on, bro. With your kids? But come on, bro.
But she was, like, a really cool character in, like, how she always handled people. Despite the fact that, like, you know, say, boom, she had a lot of power just because of, like, her physicality and...
training.
And in a survival situation, your training, and like, it does equate to having influence on some level. And so... the novelist chick, she really didn't have any influence to speak of, but, like, she was always really good about being equitable and things like that. And so the female characters, I mean, all the characters are great, but, like, they were the glue that was holding everything together for the whole time.
They really were. And you know what? I don't think they ever make it, like, super known, like, throughout the show. Like, it's not like glaring. It's not just like, we're gonna pick it up, but, like,
because, like, also one of the main villains is also one of the women. Like, it's not like women good, men evil. Like, no, it's not that at all. One of the final things that I love about this show is it's got so many Chekov's guns that you don't realize are Chekov's guns until, like, everything gets tied up. There aren't loose ends on this show. Everything is concluded. But, like, for example, after they get married and they're pretending that it's a real marriage, even though he's like, I'm never divorcing this woman. I don't care if, like, we married for this apartment. And they're on a video call with his mother. And the mother's like, okay, son, get out of here. I want to talk to your wife for a second. Like, be gone, you know? And so she leaves. He leaves, and then the mother's like, I'm so glad that you guys finally decided to get married. Like, you make him so much better because he has so much problems. Like, after his injury, like, he has so many rage problems. And you curb his rage issues. And then all throughout the show, a sort of, like, thread line with how he reacts, especially to this motherfucker who lives above them, who tried to kill his wife, is that this guy enacts makes his rage, because he makes the viewer's rage also go up. But, like, she's always there to be like, hey, don't keep it, you know, to an appropriate level. Like, I'm not gonna stop you, but just know that I'm here so you don't go too far. And there's this one scene, and it's probably the most demented he gets in his anger. And it's after, basically, the guy almost gets him and a bunch of other people killed. And he's, like, covered in blood. Well, he has, like, a thing that's covered in blood. And he rubs it all over his hands. And then he, like, walks up to the guy and just starts smearing it all over his face. And is like, is this what you wanted? Like, is this what you wanted? Like, now, like, listen, if I'm covered in blood and infected, now you're infected too. Like, congratulations. And then she's like, yo, let's
rein in it.
Let's pull it back. But then by the end of the show, after the most devastating love confession you've ever seen in your entire life, he manages, because of her, to be like, I don't need to be rage. My rage can turn into self-sacrifice for other people instead. I can turn my anger into something good. And it's just like, what a beautiful arc. But when I tell you that, okay, this love confession.
Okay, no, every bit of them together is so good.
True love exists.
It's so subtle and just so magical and so perfect. Like, if
it's so
normal
realistic.
Romance shows were like this romance, like,
you'd be more into them.
I'd be more into them.
Jessie was looking at my drama list comments. Mistake, don't do it. But someone was like, I don't really get their chemistry. They seem like best friends instead. Yeah, exactly. They are best friends.
So one thing, just a little insight if you want a successful marriage, or really, you have to be friends. Like, you have to be best friends. That's the way that works.
Yeah, and the best way to do it, really.
And what's great about this show is they show how effortlessly they are together. Like, she calls him and is like, hey, I've got this deal. They get together, like, into the, like, apartment first day, and it's like they've lived with each other for years. There's no, like, even with him being so in love with her and not knowing that she has also liked him this entire time, like, it's not weird. It's not, like, even in, like, the fact, like, they do sleep in separate beds, but it's not, but like, they never, like, have, like, but, like, they never have any weird moments. Like, it's just, like, okay, like, we're hanging out together. Oh, we're doing this. And then she, like, bandages him up, like, 14 times during this entire show, and they're all so sweet. And she does little things that, like, she'll, like, touch him or, like, do something, and, like, she doesn't see it, but he just, like, kind of melts because of it. And then he has to immediately, like, backtrack. But can we talk about my favorite scene of all time, which is, like, episode 7, where the military medicine guy steals her because he wants the antibodies? This scene I have watched so many times. It's ridiculous.
Like, there's also, I think it's earlier, where she's almost getting pulled into one of the fridge trucks of, like, zombies.
Yeah.
And then the military people are like, shut it up, like, it's, we can't save her, shut it up. And he's like, no. And then he just rips those motherfuckers open. He has, like a baton, and he's like, get the fuck back. Like, I am getting, and then just grabs her around the waist and just rockets backwards, pulling her out with him.
But, okay, so here's what makes that scene
one man
so
deserves
great.
Rights. One man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, so the setup of the scene is that she gets drugged so that she can get out of the apartment complex. And so he can, like, start, because the military guy knows that, like, she got bitten and she never turned. So she's different than everybody else. So he gets out of the parking garage, but Hyung Suk's character has seen all this happen and is just running. He's like, nope, that is the person I love the most, and we're finally, like, fake married. You're not gonna, like, stop this. We haven't died from zombies this far into the show. We're not gonna do this. And, like, they, like, open the walls that they have walled off this apartment complex in and start to like, drive the car through, and Hyung Suk just, like, parkours off of a wall.
He gains superpowers.
Onto the car, and, like, slides down to the, like, front windshield of the car, and then just points his gun at the guy
and says, "Not today, motherfucker."
And it's so good. But then also, the key here is that the military guy goes to grab his gun, but she emerges from the back seat to grab his gun before he can, and then puts it up against his head. And so they're both, like, doing this, and so, like, they have to call off everything. It's
in sync. Love is real. One man deserves rights.
Especially after it, because they get together, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Are you okay?" And it's, like, so good. It's such a good scene. Because they both save each other. Like, it's not just, like, him saving a damsel in distress. They're both damsel in distress, and they're both the heroes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the way it is, like, the whole time. Like, I love it. Mm-hmm. But in that specific scene, also, what's really kind of funny on top of it is because she's been tranquilized, like, she wasn't supposed to be awake. Normal people wouldn't be able to wake up from that. Yeah. So the military guy is like, oh fuck, like, and you're thinking you should not be awake.
And you're thinking to yourself, it's like an elephant. Would they reference that again later in the show? Would they just forget that they did that? Absolutely not. Because in, like, the second to last episode, when they escape from the complex and he drugs her again, he drugs her, like, 3 times in a row. Yeah. Like, he's like, nope, needle, and she's, like, fighting him, and he's like, again! Like, it doesn't forget anything it does.
No,
the
it doesn't.
writing, fantastic. The direction, the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is so good.
So good.
The like sound design on it is just absolutely
incredible.
Phenomenal because it does this thing where it has random breaths that happen and you don't pick it up until you start to like it moves from like, because you're so focused on like people being terrible. When it finally starts to be like them not doing stuff is when you start to hear the breaths again. And it's just this very like low in the background breath like scene. It's just so good. Like the OST is good. I genuinely think the like scenes in the parking garage with the zombies is some of the best horror you're gonna get.
Absolutely terrifying.
Too. And it's tiny bits, but just the way that it's done is so good. There's just like so many good things about this drama.
Yeah.
Also, I would love to call out just the level of planning and intelligence that the two main characters have. Like throughout the entire show.
It's not like an unearned intelligence. It makes sense due to how their characters are set up.
Right. So like there's a moment where I don't get into the details because it bogs it down, but essentially awful doctor guy thinks that he got the next drug and he was doing all these shenanigans trying to hurt because he's awful. And no. Hung Shik's character has already, like, saw that was gonna happen, switched it out with his indigestion drug.
Yeah.
And he's like, you haven't hurt anybody. You thought you really did something, didn't you? You did nothing. And I was like, oh. And in that moment, if you look at the way she looks at him, yes. She is impressed.
It is so subtle, like, movements. Oh, God, it's so good.
And he doesn't even make a big deal out of it. Like, and that his character is so good because he's not a cocky guy. And even in that rage thing, like we had that big rage discussion. I want to just point out this is not typical like male rage.
No, this isn't like punching a hole in the drywall with your hockey team.
He is not an unsafe person with anyone. Like so whenever we say rage, it's very different from the typical.
Yeah,
and he also values her. And values her in her competency of being who she is in her job. He sees her like as who she is. Like it's never a time when he's like, even though there are times when he's like he wants to protect her because he's so in love with her, it's never demeaning. Yeah. Like it's not thinking like, oh, because I have to protect you because I'm the male. Like, he knows the times when she doesn't need to be protected. And he also knows the times when she's going to be the better person for the situation that they're going into, so he lets her take lead. It's always, like, very even, because they just get each other. They know each other's strengths. And neither of their strengths, like, neither of them have any jealousy towards that or think that they're better than the other. And so, like, they just are seamlessly, like, great like pair of even just like cop type characters. They're really great at that job together. Yeah.
Oh, and then the moment they have a conversation, whenever they're kind of talking about how Hyung Shik's character, his partner, the detective partner guy, he kind of fell into, he was having a really bad go of things, and so he kind of got manipulated into, like, a pseudo-religion moment, and, like... Oh,
yeah, those, so they were kind of... mini cult.
Yeah, there's a mini cult for
there's a mini cult. I forgot that, yeah.
This show got it all.
So they were talking about that, and Hyung Shik's character is like... I can kind of understand that, because, when I was going through my, losing baseball, essentially, not being able to do that thing, it wasn't religion, but, like, I had something. And so... Not long after that, she's like, no, I want to hear more about what was this thing that you found comfort in. And she wasn't being, like, and she didn't already know the answer or something. She was just, like, honestly curious. Like, what did you mean if it wasn't religion? Like, what did you find comfort in? And he kind of hesitates and he's like, you. It was like, oh. I mean, just the whole conversation.
Love is real, people.
Yeah.
Love his
And then he kept saying,
them.
I didn't ever make it a big deal, but at the time, like, I really, really was struggling. So, like, I put on a brave face for you, but the reality is you being there made a huge difference from square one. And I've always wanted to, like, you know, put my best foot forward, but not in a, I'm going to sweep you off your feet type of way, in a...
I want to be a better person
you saved
because
me.
you are a better person.
The show is perfection.
It is. I do want to go over the crew because I think the crew is very significant, like the director and writer, because you will know who these people are. So the director is An Gil-ho, and if you're like, I know who that is, you do because you watched The Glory. He's the director of The Glory. He also did another show that like I watched. I'm pretty sure Sky watched Watcher.
Part of it, yeah. Like I need to still finish it for sure.
Absolutely phenomenal crime thriller. He did Stranger Memories of Alhambra. Like he's got a great
Mrs. Cop too.
Yeah, Mrs. Cop.
Yeah.
And the writer is Han Sang-woon, who also wrote Watcher. So that like, and also the composer for the sound guy for this is also another Watcher person. So they got a trio of Watcher people. But like, he's, you know, Watcher, The Good Wife, not a lot of like stuff, like a lot of drama specials, but like the team together.
Yeah. Like the editor was the editor on Luca the Beginning, which was an incredibly edited show.
Yeah. But I mean like everything, like even a lot of like Hashtag Alive, which is a zombie movie on Netflix. Good. That's really good and really well put together.
Well done,
Drama World, like
the composer composed Earth Doll.
Oh
yeah, and then also I don't think Amanda's listening because she doesn't like zombies, but Inspector Ku, which she like really loved the music for.
Yeah, the director's done like that. Not the director, the composer has done an incredible amount of TV stuff. Like he's very prolific. His name is Kim Tae-song. He's done Behind Your Touch. He did the Money Heist Korea, My Liberation Notes, Yumi's Cells, Space Sweepers. Like he's
Juvenile. Nevertheless, Snowdrop.
He did Fabricated City, a movie I really enjoyed.
Kim Ji-won, born in 1982.
Yeah.
Wow.
Savaha, The Sixth Finger, which is a horror film.
Yeah.
The Guest, which has fantastic sound design. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been at it for a while. Like he's anyway. Like this is an incredible cast, an incredible show. I don't even know like how to even sum this up. Like it's,
I'd like to mention like cast wise, and like character wise, I really do enjoy like the two kind of main military people a lot. Like Jo Woo-jin, the guy that plays Han Tae-suk, which is the like medical military head guy of countermeasures of whatever. So good. And you'll recognize him from Goblin. Yep. He's Secretary Kim and he's so funny there. But he's so subtle in this show. But like some people look at him and be like, oh, he's really heartless. He's not. Like, and you can see him as a bad guy. You can also just see that he's trying his hardest. Like, it's just, he's fascinating.
With his character, like, you have, like, his wife was infected, and it was, like, at a thing that, like, she probably shouldn't have been to, so he kind of feels like he's the one that, like, got her infected, even though it was, like, the person he works with. And there's a really great moment that, like, because he worked at this medical company, like, and it was, like, to do some shady stuff. I think they were trying to steal secrets from other, like, drug companies or whatever. But, like, he has this journey where he starts to, like, realize what the world is through that job. And that's kind of how he is in the military role. And you see that because he's, like, so, like, doesn't care about anything. But really, he's just, like, wanting his wife to be better. But also there's a little bit of humanity in him because he doesn't want another person to feel the way that he feels because of this medical company having done, you know, corporations being evil type line.
Like, and even his relationship with Sebum. Like, he recognizes how competent she is, but at the same time is trying to use her, but doing it in as humane a way as possible. It's very... He has to walk a tightrope of a lot of stuff. So, like,
and he does it with his like right-hand person, Jisoo. She also he also like trusts her with a lot. Like, he sees something in her, and I think there are moments where he is very good at being in the role, and maybe that's like he is just like really good at being military because that's the kind of like thinking he is.
And then he'll even be like, I've made my choices. I know that, like, my hands, they're pretty much filthy with blood. You, my assistant, like, you're going to have to make your own choices. I don't necessarily wish my choices onto you, because I know that I've already kind of crossed lots of lines to do what I'm doing. So anyway, even though they're, like, not in the building and all this stuff, I still think, like, they're fascinating. And the assistant chick, she cracks me up. She's so dry, but like you want Sebum and her to like go have drinks later.
Yes.
Like, they would be so cute, and they would still kind of probably like tease each other, like, I hate you, but like they don't hate each other. They're just being silly. But like when Sebum brings the rice cake to her and be like, I don't like you, but I'm giving you this anyway. It's like, you guys are sweet. Like, I want you to just be friends and not be dealing with zombies. Have a moment. But I really did. I appreciate those characters a lot. And I think they brought a lot to the table, despite the fact that, like, the attention is usually tied to the people in the building, because you have to be worried
it's
about
definitely,
what they're
like,
doing.
in the building a lot more than it is outside, and that's where they are.
And the little girl... The little girl.
She's so sweet. You just want to give her a little hug and pinch her little cheeks. The cuteness, aggression.
Yeah.
And she's so mature, and you can tell the way they tell the story. And it's always by showing, not telling, as far as she realizes pretty early on, my parents are probably in a bad way. That's why they're not here. Like, she knows stuff.
Well, yeah, and she does like little things where she tries so hard to like not let any of the other adults know that she's having a hard time. Like, if she's crying, she'll like immediately like be like, no, it's just trying to watch TV.
Yeah, which makes sense for a child who basically doesn't have any children friends.
Yes, and being forced to constantly be home by herself.
And knowing that her
outside working.
Yeah, and having to listen to her parents like struggle because of her illness. She would be the sort that be like, oh no, I'm fine, like not wanting to worry people, and also identify more with, the reason that she befriends this 30-year-old lady who lives across this hall isn't because like that she's particularly cool, even though she is. It's because this little girl clearly doesn't know how to be a child. Because she's not allowed to be because she's sick. And so she's befriends this cool woman who will give her the time of day, because at the point in this story is she's on leave because of the situation. So it's like she has all the time to spend with her, which her parents don't, and she's trustworthy and she's kind and she's been vetted by the girl's parents as not being weird. And so she's like, yeah, let's just, sure, I got nothing better going on. Like, I'll befriend this 8-year-old.
Let's go exercise together. It was so
let's
cute.
go exercise together. The show is just such a realistic human show in a very unrealistic situation. Like, zombies aren't realistic. We get this. Like, but everything else about this show is so human and real that it lends an air of like believability that a lot of, sort of monster horror type things don't have, because you've met every single one of these people in this show.
Well, and even if you haven't personally met some of these people, you know that they exist within the way society functions. Especially the wealthy, the privileged, things like that, the way they look at people. Yeah, for sure.
Like, and if you've never met one of these privileged assholes, I got some bad news, friend. If you've never felt oppressed by one of these types of people, time for a little bit of self-reflection, my guy.
That's really funny.
Do we have any final thoughts about this show before we call the evening?
The rewatchability rating is super high on this.
Oh yeah, I had so much fun rewatching this.
Yeah,
it's still a 10 out of 10 for me.
It is. It's a 10 out of 10 for me as well.
I can't say it's my like ultimate favorite because Come and Hug Me is so good, but like I could say on days Happiness like would be, you know, the top one, but like on other days Come and Hug Me. It is definitely in that like level. It's just so good, and the rewatch was just as fun even though I knew everything that was going on, and watching it for the first time was absolutely phenomenal. Like that was such a great time, and especially in a time where it was still like not having a job and not like all this stuff, still like I was like, this is the best thing that I could ever watch now.
It's basically ruined me for other shows. No, I'm kidding, but I do love it an unhealthy amount. It is my number one show. I don't really see another show beating it anytime soon. Like, it would have to really, you know.
I will say the couple beats every couple, even Come and Hug Me couple. Yeah. I think they Happiness couple beats them.
Because like with the Come and Hug Me couple, they're not a realistic couple.
No.
Like it's not a thing that really
that's not what I like the most, connect with the most on Come and Hug Me. But I will say that this is a lie, because I do have the ultimate couple and nobody will ever surpass that. That's Mulder and Scully. So like that is the ultimate couple.
Fair.
But in Asian dramas.
Yeah.
Happiness couple.
Like these, it's, I don't know what else to say. You should watch it if you haven't. You should rewatch it if you have. Happiness is incredible.
What I love about it is, though it does definitely get tense the more the show goes on and it has tense moments throughout, I do think rewatchability, like, comfort show, to me, it can be a comfort show. And that might sound really strange to people who, like, don't like various genres of stuff, but a lot of the episodes are really not that tense, not near as tense as you would think. It would only be tense like for a moment, and then it kind of goes back to the little girl having a snack with the cute couple. Like you really have a lot of balance a lot of the show.
Yeah. Or they're picking up on top of the roof. Oh.
Yeah, like everything's juxtaposed just really interestingly. I would recommend it for so many people. It probably is not for literally everybody, but a lot of people. And a lot of people, it doesn't have to be an Asian drama watcher. Like, if you could get non-Asian drama watchers to watch the show, they would probably really like it if they like this type of thing.
I agree.
But yeah, like, it's
such an accessible sort of story that even people who, like, don't watch Asian dramas but like zombie stories and stuff would very easily be able to watch this and get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Right. Or people that like social commentary type stuff. Like, if you're a fan of the 12 Angry Men type of kind of social experiment type stuff, like this is along those lines. So don't let the zombie stuff make you think, oh, it's not going to be realistic. Like, social experiment level high. Like, it feels very realistic with people. People are people, no matter what. But yeah, like, I'm not sure it's my number one of, like, all dramas ever, but it's definitely my number one of that this type of genre. Like, by far. It might be my favorite social commentary type one that I've watched so far. And I really like that type of stuff, so. But the couple. Some people I'm sure will think there's not enough romance, but, like, given the genre.
There's romance to be found if you know where to look. All right? Yeah. Because if you just watch the show knowing that everything that Park Young-sik's character does is done with the utmost of love for this woman, then everything he does makes sense. Like,
and
every single action he takes, he does because he loves this woman more than life itself.
You see the moment he falls in love with her is the very first scene of the show when he's being pushed off of the building.
He's gone.
When he's looking up at her, immediately it clicks over and is like, I'm in love with that girl.
Oh, wait a second.
That's
happiness. It's a great show. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. If you haven't watched it, watch it again. If this is your first time listening to us, thank you for joining us, and you should listen to us again, because we got a huge backlog of episodes, and if you're a continuing watcher, thank you for continuing to listen to us, and we appreciate you. We appreciate every single person who listens to this podcast more than you probably know as just a casual listener to a podcast. And if you want to be a casual watcher of a podcast, we now are in video. So you can go to YouTube, search Certified Noonas, and find us there. So please like and subscribe, I guess we're supposed to say as YouTubers. But if you want to go check out every single episode and see links and time codes to everything that we're talking about, you can do so at certifiednoonas.com. It's our website that has every single episode we've ever done with all the links to where to find stuff that we're talking about. And if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/certifiednoonas to join the Certified Found Family. They're a found family on the web. And Thursday, the week this comes out, there will be a special movie review of another zombie film, ironically called The Sadness, that Jessie and I watched. And we'll be putting out our mini reviews, which is a new thing that we're doing on Patreon. We're going to be putting out movie reviews weekly. So there's little mini episodes for you. And we also have a movie night every month. We have a movie night every month. We have a movie night every month. And of course, if you're on the YouTube, we do live streams all the time. And if you go to our Discord and our social medias, it's always at Certified Noonas. And we have we make a little thing that what we're doing every month. So you can find out when to schedule yourself to come join those. Anyway, we hope you have a fantastic week. Wash your hands and wear a mask, because it be getting nasty disease-wise out there. And as always, keep enjoying Asian entertainment. Bye!